Hi, I'm Ray Anthony, and today I'm going to talk to you about my science fiction books. I have written other books, contemporary fiction, but today is just about science fiction. And I'll start by saying, well, ever since I had a choice about what to read, I read science fiction, and going all the way back to me being about 12 years old. So it would have been Arthur C. Clarke, Asimov, E. Smith, that sort of thing. And like most guys my age, I would go into a bookshop and choose a book by its cover. Read it. If I enjoyed it, I'd read other stuff by that author. And if we are to look at what I'm reading now, the sort of authors I read now, Peter F. Hamilton, Neil Asher, but probably my top contemporary science fiction author, although he's no longer with us, is Ian M. Banks. And I'm fairly sure I've read every single published Ian M. Banks book, plus a few Ian Banks books. So that's where I come from in terms of my reading. And as I said, I'd written a couple of contemporary fiction books. And I started thinking about writing a science fiction book. Could I do it? I've read it all my adult life, but could I write one? Well, before I started, I thought, okay, I've read lots of science fiction. What am I going to write? And the moment I had that thought, a couple of things occurred to me. There are two broad brush issues I've had with science fiction ever since I've been reading it, even from I was 12. And I thought, if I'm going to write science fiction, I should address the two issues that have kind of bothered me. First issue, I can pick up a science fiction book and read it, and with most cases, work out the decade it was written. So the issue is, science fiction that I read is space opera, usually set in the future. But the writer has taken today's society, projected it into the future with tomorrow's technology, but they haven't changed society. That struck me as weird. Surely society in the future will be different. I mean, the best example of this kind of thing I can think of is a book, or two books, Hyperion and A Return to Hyperion by Dan Simmons. Excellent books. Brilliant at extrapolating and looking at a potential future in terms of technology, but you can tell it was the society then. So future society should be different. How different? Well, we don't know. But their norms, their mores should be different than now. That's the first issue. Allied to that, reading a lot of science fiction was the underpinning of a lot of the adventure is based on European conquest of the New World. I suppose the thing that exemplifies this the most is Star Trek. Utopian, future, there's no wars, there's no money, there's no death, but you have explorers who goes exploring with a ship that is armed to the teeth. Well, you might say, what's wrong with that? Sure, they've got to protect themselves. And I go, yeah, but from what? Because if you're going to explore and go somewhere where no one's ever been before, and you run into something, surely if they don't want you there, you should leave rather than fight them because they were there first. That's the sort of thing I mean. So there's that. The other thing about science fiction that I thought, your authors are being lazy, is aliens. They're going to be insects, but we'll be able to understand them, or they'll be whatever. But I'm like, okay, come on, people, seriously. Can you today say in 100 years' time with developed technology, we'll be able to have a conversation with a dolphin, like, hi Joe, how's the missus and kids type of conversation. They're species that are very, 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 very similar to us. They're fellow mammals, and they evolved on the same planet as us. Will we? So what makes you think we'll be able to communicate with aliens in the future? Questions, yeah? So those are the things that, as I've read science fiction, I've gone, oh, surely we should explore the alienness of aliens rather than just them being like us but slightly different. Those are the two broad areas that I've always questioned. So when I'm going to start writing my own science fiction, maybe I should have a look at this. So, first question, can I write science fiction? I don't know. Let's try. So, my first attempt, Empress. This is Star Wars meet Dune. There are no aliens in this, it's a kind of future society. Star Wars meet Dune. I write it. I'm very happy. I now know that I can write science fiction. Surprised me. I also discovered that not only can I do it, I prefer it to writing contemporary fiction. There is more room to invent. So my second novel, Pilot. This is a straightforward, boys on their toys, tear up in the galaxy type book until they run into aliens and the story changes. Because it is highly unlikely that a species that's 200,000 years old is going to step into the galaxy and be topped off. So that's it. Pilot. Boys on their toys until the aliens turn up. Then it's about aliens and alien biology and reproduction and stuff like that. So I'm enjoying writing. I have the idea of the next books, because it was a trilogy about, this is called Interdictor Book 1 of the Unknowable Aliens, the Unknowable Enemy trilogy. And this is straightforward aliens. We're at war with aliens. We don't know, we don't understand, we don't even understand why they're fighting us. All we know is we're getting our asses whipped. But there's a lot of future society in it, because the society X number of 100 years from now isn't like today. So that's book 1, Interdictor. And what Interdictor explores is the extremes of humans and their behavior, and assumes that alienness is beyond the extremes of humans. It can be beyond what mad human beings do. Interdictor. Next we have book 2, Armor. Still the same war, slightly different characters looking at the human response in a different way. And finally, in the trilogy, Captain. Same war, slightly different characters, and we begin to fathom why we're at war with them and what the issues are and where we kind of figure in the cosmos. I finished writing Captain last year in about September and actually published it in December 2020. Now, I don't know many writers, so I experienced something I hadn't done before. The trilogy, the story arc of the trilogy is as I expected. It was great writing it, new ideas, but the basic story arc was what I expected. And when I was writing the very last page of Captain, finishing the book off, another book, a 4th book, just occurred to me. And I'm like, wow, I thought I'd finished this story. So there is actually a book 4. It's called, being written now, and it's called Sublight. So that was quite a shock. And I don't know if this happens to other writers. Anyway, as I said, I'm going to talk to you about my writing, and this is it. Click on the link below if you think you'd be interested. in getting an ebook from Amazon or Apple Books. Thanks for listening.